We covered how African leaders are speaking out against the United States, how Kamala Harris was essentially laughed out of the room when she went to Africa. The United States is quickly losing geopolitical influence. And it's, and I made this point quite a few times, it's shocking how incompetent the Biden administration and the liberals are with their they really think they have this smart geopolitical strategy where they play in 3D chess, right? And they cause the United States to lose an insane amount of power because of their incompetence, because of this miscalculation that they can win an economic war with Russia. They can rule and have peace through sanctions and strength instead of negotiations and peace and trade and commerce. Like, it's ridiculous the strategy that the Biden administration, Blinken, and the people have been engaged in. So this was, I saw this because Nico tweeted this out, and this is actually quite shocking. Like, I'm actually shocked at this. Japan breaks with U.S. allies, purchases Russian oil. So we've been covering a lot about the fall of the petrodollar, the rise of China, and this is freaking. It's so bad. Like, they're not even doing that. Well, the Republicans are, but they're not in general even doing that thing where they take the opposing side. You got to see Trump and DeSantis, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz. They'll take a different position of Biden on Ukraine because it helped maintain the red-blue partisan game. They don't even do that on China. They're like, no, we got the same position, and we're going to compete, and we're going to call the other side weak on China. They're not even hiding the uniparty on China here. Now, this is shocking because the United States has essentially colonized Japan, and Japan has been a obedient United States puppet, and it kind of makes sense considering the United States got military bases all over Japan. I mean, they said they respect sovereignty, but they got military bases on Japan, and they often prop up the ruling party. That's why Shinzo Abe was very close with Nira Tanden. Very, very close friends. Do you guys know that? Very close connection with the Hillary Clinton Foundation. It's all one global connected neoliberal scheme, right? So my point being, Japan was and continues to be a puppet state of the U.S. empire. They've been extremely tough on China. They doubled their military spending. So Japan, who swore pacifism after their imperial conquest and their rape of China and rape of Nanjing and other atrocities, they demilitarized. Guess who convinced them to get back in the game? The United States. The United States said, fuck that shit. You better ramp up the arms. We about to go to war with China, buddy. So this is shocking, actually. So this is the headline that I'm leading with. I got a propaganda report for you guys that kind of responds to this kind of stuff. It said Japan breaks with U.S. allies, buys Russian oil at prices above cap. Now, Japan can escalate worse. They can abandon the United States worse than this. They can agree to purchase oil only using wands, right? Or rubles. They ain't gone that far yet, right? They ain't gone that far. But this still is a massive betrayal to the United States, right? With something that actually shocks me. It shows this.
I'm shocked myself, especially considering the timing with how they're ramping up for war with China. This is surprising. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I literally said in the tweet, I said, I'm surprised Japan flips, shows how much the United States is fucking up. Or you can also take another take in that. You can also say, because it shows how dominant China is, that even Japan with their constant provocations against China, like doing military drills next to China with the United States and South Korea. And I'm like, man, after what you guys did to China, after what Japan did to China during the conquest of Imperial Japan, look at the rape of Nanjing. That's the one I know the best, but guys, there's a lot more that they did. After what you guys did less than 100 years ago, you guys just take a seat and shut the fuck up about China forever. That's just me. Japan, you guys should be as nice to China as possible for the rest of your existence after what you guys have done. You guys know that China lost Taiwan because of Japanese imperialism. Mm-hmm. There's deep resentment among Chinese people over Japan because of the atrocities. Of course, right? Of course. But that's why this is so shocking. I didn't see this coming. But this is not because Japan has a principled anti-United States position. It's because They have no choice, guys. You understand how checkmated the United States have to for this to happen? You think Japan's like, I really dislike Anthony Blinken. I want to get close to Russia. No, they doing this because they have no choice, and that is powerful. They have countries like India and Japan have to do this in order to keep their economy stable. Now, people who know this are people like this. Now, this is not a long propaganda report. This video only 5 minutes. We see how long it takes to get through it. I'll play, but especially in the beginning, I'll let the beginning play for a bit because they're gonna set this up, and this is actually a truthful attack on Biden. Now, we all know the red-blue game is bullshit, but they all use the same attack because the attack is always true. When Donald Trump is president, you had liberals that said Donald Trump is dangerous to the United States because he's weakening the United States presence on the global stage. Do you guys remember that? Remember that line? Do you guys remember under Barack Obama where Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly did segments every night, like how Barack Obama is destroying the United States standing in the world? Mm-hmm. I remember that as a kid because my grandpa used to have those segments. He used to watch MSNBC all the time. He just flip between Fox News, just chilling, watching. Now you see those segments. And then Biden took office, and they repeating the same talking point because it's always true. It is always true because the United States empire strategy does not change between presidents. But I think that's a good preface. I'm gonna dive into the video now.
One of the many terrible consequences of the Democrats' divisive Get Trump circus is that we're not paying attention to some absolutely seismic and disastrous developments in foreign policy. This week, China made a massive global advance by strengthening its ties with Saudi Arabia, which joined a China-led security.
You see this fear, and keep listening to the fear language this guy continues to use. Their global advance. What are they trying to invoke with using language like that? Their global events. What did they do? They strengthened global trade ties with Saudi Arabia. Oh my God. China is doing trade with another country? How nefarious. You guys see the language? Anyway,
look at the headline. The two distinct words that stand out to me is strengthens and strain. It strengthens relations and strains. That's language used like if somebody's under duress. You're under duress because somebody else is signing an agreement. You see how it's described? Yeah, you see how it's described. But go ahead. That's what
like China will do trade in Africa. They'll do a trade deal in Africa, and they were like, "Oh my God, Chinese imperialism! How dare they expand their global reach in Africa? Only we're allowed to do that." No, for real. I already kind of buried it. I'm gonna let the segment play because I already primed you guys. It's going to get more ridiculous.
Bloc and signed a multi-billion-dollar energy deal. This comes straight after China brokered a peace deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran.
Oh my God, they brokered a peace deal. How nefarious, CJ. The evil Chinese, what are they up to with peace with Saudi Arabia and Iran?
A massive humiliation, not just for America, but Biden personally. Just listen to what he said in Saudi Arabia in July.
Let me state clearly that the United States is going to remain an active, engaged partner in the Middle East. We will not walk away and leave a vacuum to be filled by China, Russia, or Iran.
But it seems like Biden fist bumped his way out of that promise. But at least we still have our allies in the South, right? Not under Biden. China is advancing there too, as just the other day, China struck a deal with Brazil to ditch the US dollar and use China's currency for trade. Now, investors are being told to prepare for the fall of the petrodollar. We already saw Xi and Putin cementing the China-Russia anti-America alliance and extending it to India. India, the world's largest democracy, which should be 100% in.
Yeah. Anti-American alliance?
Oh my God.
By definition, them teaming up, it makes it anti-American? Yes. Or
countries doing trade without the permission of the United States is anti-American. It is an affront to us for you to try to increase your global geopolitical standing. How dare you oppose U.S. unipolar dominance? That is the unhinged ideology of Lex Luthor here. Like, these people are evil as it gets.
It's such a slave master sort of thinking.
Yeah.
It's such a, what are you doing? Like, everything that is about you is I do. Like, it's through me. It's such that dynamic. Go ahead. Continue.
China-Russia anti-America alliance and extending it to India. India, the world's largest democracy, which should be 100% in our corner. With Trump, that was looking so positive.
Friends, I present to you my friend,
Moody is an anti-labor
India
fascist, by
friend.
the way.
The President of the United States of America, Mr. Donald Trump. हम सब खड़े होकर के
So what are they doing here? They're like, look how great things was under Donald Trump.
Namaste, Trump.
But Biden seems to have alienated everyone with this sanctimonious.
See, the reason why this doesn't make sense, and I will admit, this is a good jab on Biden. Like, in general, this is a good jab on Biden. The problem with your theory coming as a Republican is that Mitch McConnell and every single Republican supports this. Like, there's only a handful. They take those 10 Republicans that don't support it and they blow it up. I mean, don't get me wrong. Those 10 that oppose it are extremely important. That's the squad strategy they don't do. That if you only have a handful of people who oppose the system, that means a lot. But and so I'm not saying they're not significant, but he criticizing Biden for making his tie with India weak, but that is due to the policies that the Republican Party support, and I'm very interested in seeing how things develop because I told you guys, Trump is not going to change. I promise you guys. If I'm wrong, I will have to readdress this, but I promise you guys, the empire does not do drastic changes like this under presidents. He's going to find a way to flip it, and Trump supporters are such bootlickers. All they're trying to do is say is, man, Putin's kind of hinged, isn't he, man? We really got to stand for America first because Putin and Trump, he got to say just one bullshit thing, and they'll be on board. You know what I mean?
The red and blue team works that way because you saw it with the pandemic and the vaccinations. All of a sudden, everything flipped. Y'all was talking about we can't trust the pandemic, we can't trust no vaccination. Now all of a sudden, y'all saying everybody like you see it, like they just flip.
Yeah, we see if I'm wrong, but I tell you guys, that's my gut instinct. That shit is strong right now. So we see if I'm wrong. My instinct telling me that if Trump wins, that shit is not going to change on Ukraine. And even like he will fight, he will have such a massive fight with the Republicans. I just don't see it. Like the Republican establishment wing, and I'm talking about the Mitch McConnell wing, right? That wing. And not even just him, that's actually misleading because there's only like 15 at best, guys. It's not a lot. It's just loud voices, but every other Republican's on it. Like you guys saw when Ron DeSantis stepped down in line and then he crumbled under the pressure of people like Lindsey Graham, and Mitt Romney criticizing him. Guys, I don't know. I don't see Trump really changing, but we see. But let's continue the segment. Let's see. It's not a long video, so let's continue it.
Utterly cack-handed foreign policy. This is a really big deal. Not least economically. Look at this. The Western Alliance, the G7, just this week overtaken by the BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia.
They kind of spoiled I had this part. I want to show you guys this too, but look at this. This is the real reason for the anti-China fear-mongering. I saw this segment from Lauren Ingram, but I am trying to spare you guys. She's one of the people that banned. She's one of the people I don't cover. Not worth it. But she had a statement that was almost worth covering where the freak out over China was, she had this guy, she was like, this is a guy who monitors TikTok. He's going to tell you how China is spying on you through TikTok and why that's harmful for you. Actually, I might do that segment eventually this week. It's so hilarious. They are freaking the fuck out about China. Their whole statement is them trying to scare the shit. They're trying to scare white boomers from China. This is why. Do not get twisted in thinking it's about anything else other than this. BRICS overtakes G7 in global GDP. And they also say, I think it might be this segment. I might be mixing with the Lauren Ingram segment, but one of those two segments definitely do say we cannot have China rise because we cannot show a successful model of communism. I'm like, dude, you literally just said it. You said what we Marxists say as theory. You know what I mean?
Not only, Nick, because it's not only a successful model of capitalism. Look what he's doing. Look what they're doing around the world. It's not. I'm sorry, communism. Yeah, make sure you correct me with that shit. Yeah, yeah. Make sure that shit on video is corrected. But it's not just a successful example. Oh, communism is just working in China. Cool. Like they're in Africa, they're helping everywhere, and that is what is so threatening. Because it's like, damn, now you're freeing your people, and you're going to other houses helping people. It makes them look so bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, and to be clear, I say it like that because that's how they say it, right? They're like, we can't have any of a communist system. You know, China's more of a market socialist system. That's
yes.
the Chinese Communist Party. We can't have the Chinese Communist Party be successful even though they mostly market socialists. They got nationalized bank systems. It's much more efficient system that we have here. Let's continue to say, once again, we only got a little bit here. Now I got just a few more here.
Arabia and a handful of others like Egypt. What's happening to America? We used to be the world's leader. Everybody wanted to be our ally. Now she is the one swaggering across the world stage while Biden staggers around, barely waking up from his nap. It's incredible to see how far we've fallen in influence and prestige under this decrepit non-entity of a president and his gray technocratic team of foreign policy geniuses. Let's remember that the next time the establishment tells you what a good idea it is to put someone with decades of foreign policy experience in charge. Here to react, former State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus, who really is a foreign policy genius. Morgan, it's been a while. Great to see you. What do you make of all these developments?
Thank you, Steve. It's so good to be back.
Awkward.
I'm sorry, maybe you didn't
hear
my
I thought you
question.
passed the video.
I was just asking you, what do you make of all these developments?
So I think you brought up incredibly important points tonight that didn't get a lot of coverage. Let's peel back the onion, Steve, and look at the bigger picture of what the Chinese Communist Party is trying to do. They are trying to dominate the world stage. So we are entering an era, we talked about this at the beginning.
The Chinese Communist Party is trying to dominate the global stage. Once again, how dare this country do what any other country would do? Try to expand their global influence. That's their criticism, guys. Let's hear that part again. That part's so funny to me.
Points tonight that didn't get a lot of coverage. Let's peel back the onion, Steve, and look at the bigger picture of what the Chinese Communist Party is trying to do. They are trying to dominate the world stage. So we are entering an era, we talked about this at the beginning of the Trump presidency, of great power competition. What does that mean? It means that we're in a struggle in region for region around the world of communism versus democracy. And what you're seeing China try to do is not only to replace us as the dominant military power, but the dominant economic power as well.
Ooh.
So they are going country by
She just admitted it. She just admitted it right there.
Yep. How dare they?
And they're describing it as communism, and like you said, like we wouldn't call it it's not communism, but they're describing it as communism. So they're the ones who's presenting the successful or the succeeding China as the communist model. So you, in your narrative, is going to sell people on this being communism, something that's working that people are liking.
Yeah,
seems weird to me, but go ahead.
Black Agenda Report, they did a great job explaining this. We can break down to a baseline level on how people fall for this stuff, because a lot of average people may not be thinking about it in terms of economic models. But this is white supremacy, because how dare this Asian country surpass a mostly Caucasian white dominant country? That is not supposed to happen. Before the United States, there was the UK. We are supposed to be on top. How dare they? So they can just present that as an affront. How dare you try to surpass your betters? How dare you?
You know what collapses? White supremacy that they've sold us for 500 years. They've sold us for 500 plus years. That literally collapses because they was able to sell this subconsciously or consciously, sell white supremacy, white people are better, as long as they were always at the top of the heap, economically, at the top of the heap, militarily. That's no longer going to be. So it undercuts just the ideology of white supremacy. This is why they have to push back against CRT. All of this to me is sort of connected, but
it is.
Go ahead before I go on a tangent.
And that shows how unhinged the core of white American ideology is. Where they were willing to go war, and they said it, they were willing to go war with China before they allowed them to surpass them. How long has other countries allowed the United States to be on top without waging war against them? The United States and the West sees these Asian people, they see Chinese people rise up on the global stage, and they say we'd rather go to war and destroy the global economy and the working class than allow it to happen. And then the lesser side of that is someone like Tucker Carlson that said we should have economic war. That's what he said. He's the better among most camera hosts. We say, I don't want to war with China. We should have economic war. My question is why? How do we benefit? We benefit, and we had a mutual exchange of trade where every country benefit. They refuse to let us have that, guys. We do not benefit from U.S. imperialism. But anyway, I'm ranting. I'm gonna finish this segment here soon. Let's wrap this up.
That country, inch by inch, bit by bit, to take off to bring away our friends. Saudi Arabia and Brazil are excellent examples that you brought up. So what do we see happen in Saudi Arabia? First of all, the administration was.
You guys hear what she said there? It was like mid-sentence. I don't know if you caught it. She said China is guilty of pulling our friends and our allies away from us. Boo-hoo, motherfucker. Whose fault is that? Oh my God. Chinese, they're so hostile to us. They're making their friends like them more than they like us. Because a lot of these people are not even canceling the United States. They're just doing business with China too. They're just joining BRICS as well. But that's still front. But sorry, let me let it continue. I'll just go. I'll let it finish.
Completely surprised whenever Saudi Arabia and China came out with Iran, which is Saudi's number one foe, number one enemy, to announce that they were bringing ambassadors back together, opening embassies, that they had come to a deal. Not only we were not a part of that deal, we were surprised by it. We learned about it in the newspaper with everyone else, and so that just goes to show that Saudi Arabia sees Xi Jinping as a better mediator, a better partner than President Biden. And that's a precarious position to be in. Is Saudi the perfect friend? No, they're not. But exactly what President Biden said that he would not allow to happen in the Middle East is, and around the world, is happening in terms of us losing our influence, us losing, key negotiations. Same thing going on in Brazil as well, Steve. It took Biden, I think, over a year to call Bolsonaro when he was the president of the year, because I think because he didn't like him. And I'm hearing this from allies, especially around Latin and South America and in the Middle East, that the Biden administration is so distracted by the Russia-Ukraine conflict that they're not focusing on anything else. And we are ceding our influence in these regions. Why does that matter? It matters because China is not doing that. In fact, they're doing the opposite. They're doubling down.
Exactly.
They're doubling down.
Exactly. What a great
doubling down on being nice and peace. They're doubling down, Nick. Go ahead.
For the second time, I'm moving on to the next part. That video is so hilarious to me. I can round that video alone forever.